that has to concern you a little bit. And again, I said in the recap podcast, this does not mean that the world is burning. These guys are not going to always shoot this bad from the free throw line. You can have an off night. But if this continues going throughout the early part of this season, like if they come back from the battle from Atlantis and they're still shooting this bad from the free throw line, that's when I'm going to start to get really concerned.
All right, who wins tonight?
I think Carolina wins. I think Carolina probably gets it up into the high 80s, low 90s. I think they hold Gardner-Webb into the mid to high 60s, and I think Carolina pulls out the victory. Just way too much talent. I think maybe early on in the game, like you said, it might be a little bit of a slow start, but I feel like this offense can get on track against a team in Gardner-Webb that is just nowhere near as good as they were a year ago, and I feel like Carolina gets a pretty comfortable victory.
I'm with you. I think Carolina wins rather handedly. I think you're going to see a bounce-back performance from guys like Cole Anthony from the field. I know he scored 20 points, but it was only 7 of 24 shooting. Garrison Brooks has been quiet, giving you 10, and he's averaging a double-double, 10.5 points, 10.5 rebounds. I think he'll continue to do the dirty work, but I think the guy that is really going to show out is this feels like a time for Christian Kelly to kind of say, okay, I can play at this level night in, night out. We've seen glimpses of him, his ability to maybe break down a defender but then make a turnover. So he has the ability to get by guys. It's just what he does after that. I think the game slows down for him. He kind of has the Justin Pierce game that Pierce had down in Wilmington, and will help kind of ignite the Carolina offense on the perimeter, which this offense needs badly, as some other guys on the perimeter scoring the basketball, as Carolina will look to improve to 3-0. We're going to wrap up this podcast with our segment, Beat the Buzzer.
Welcome to Beat the Buzzer.
And on this Beat the Buzzer segment, we've got some fun topics to talk about. First off, Cole Anthony, a guy we've talked a lot about on this podcast early on so far in the season, named not only ACC Freshman of the Week, but also was named Player of the Week as well. Kind of figured that after he dropped 34 in the opener, which of course was an ACC game against Notre Dame, but a pretty good honor to start his rookie campaign in Chapel Hill. Also, earlier this week, Carolina announced its signing class of, right now, 5 players in the class for 2020, believe it or not, and they're not done. They could look to add a possible player or two because there's going to be some open spots next year for Carolina going into the next 2020 basketball season. Lastly, probably the most fun thing we saw this week for Carolina basketball that didn't happen for the Tar Heels directly. Kobe White had a game against our beloved Knicks Wednesday night up in Chicago. It was Tuesday night up in Chicago. Roy Williams flew up to Chicago. Actually, did not do his radio show. Hubert Davis sat in for him. Roy Williams, Steve Robinson, and Eric Cooch flew up to the game to kind of give Kobe some encouragement, who was kind of struggling with the shot as of recent. Hit 7 3-pointers in the fourth quarter, a Bulls record. Was a lot of fun seeing them kind of interact post-game. It just kind of gives you another visual glimpse of what the Carolina basketball family is.
Yeah, no, I thought it was just unbelievable. It was great on so many levels. Kobe coming out, and you had mentioned it, really struggling shooting from the field. Comes out, has one of his best shooting nights in a long time at either level. And does a great job in that fourth quarter taking over. Then you have the post-game interview. Roy comes up and, it just gives him a hug. And, you can tell Kobe said it, this shows the Carolina family. But the thing that stuck out the most to me was, the fact that he said, Coach, I love you. And it's more than just, a basketball connection between us. This goes beyond basketball. And that's the difference, when you talk about what the Carolina family is as opposed to, some of the other, coined phrases out there. It's really like a family. If, Kobe he sees Kobe struggling, he decides, you know what? I know I got media obligations. Hubert, why don't you sit in for me? And why don't we go up and see Kobe and try to give him a little bit of encouragement? And that was great. And the other thing is, it got the Knicks closer to a number 1 pick. So congratulations. Thank you so much for helping our crappy Knicks out.
Oh, yeah, and some other NBA Tar Heels. Cam Johnson really thriving out in Phoenix.
Ballin',
has been the early surprise of the league. They won again tonight. They're 7-4, I think, right now so far this season.
Cam in the finals.
Nazir Little has finally broken to the rotation after getting a little more healthy for Portland.
We're going to be seeing a lot more Nazir, too, baby.
Yeah,
yes.
Had a monster dunk the other night. Hit a 3-pointer the other night that Portland
he's
was
starting to
putting out
get
there.
a nice roll.
So he's kind of breaking in through. So a lot of NBA Tar Heels out there making waves. Vince Carter still playing.
Yeah. I was gonna say Vince still in the league.
Wayne Ellington and Reggie Bullock playing for the Knicks. Bullock's been kind of away dealing with a family tragedy, but Ellington, he can shoot threes forever.
Yeah, we wish Reggie the best, as well as we normally don't. We're not going to point him out on the podcast, but him as well as Dennis Smith Jr., former NC State player, dealing with tragedies. Both of them had family members that pass away on the same day. So, of course, we wish Reggie the best and Dennis Smith Jr. the best as well.
But that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. Remember, you can subscribe to this podcast on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn. Anywhere you find your podcast, or Roy's Boys podcast will be there. You can also find us on the HeelToughBlog.com website, along with my writing. There'll be a preview for tonight's game with the link to the podcast to listen to that as well. Also, check out all the fun stuff Anthony has going on football-wise. We'll be recapping the Pittsburgh loss in depth with a recap, stock report, and the trench report all on there on the HeelToughBlog.com. Also, listen to the Heel Tough Blog podcast as we recap the Pittsburgh loss as well. It's up there for you guys to go check out and listen. I want to thank Anthony for taking some time out of his busy schedule to come talk on a podcast, although he did not miss talking about Carolina basketball. I want to thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels.